רפואה שלמה, רפואת הנפש, ורפואת הגוף, לכל החולים בתוך קהילה שלנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, רופא החולים. אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל בני אדם.
What page now?
Well, I'm going to have a few words in the middle, so no page at all.
Well,
No page at all. Fine.
get ready.
Or you can get ready, page 520, if you want to prepare.
I'll prepare.
So firstly, I'd like to excuse myself for my dreadful singing. As you know, we're halfway through Elul, only 2 weeks before Rosh Hashanah. So one of the several traditions of Elul is for people to practice the unique, special, characteristic Yamim Noraim melodies for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. So the choir should be practicing regularly. Unfortunately, all you got is me and my very faulty memory, and I'm doing my best to try and change the melodies, because a melody is like a taste or a smell, very evocative of the coming season. So as I walked into the house and Fiona was already zooming away, I heard that the great topic of your concern was what's happened just in a week in Afghanistan. And as it happened, just last Shabbat, last Friday night, we were at the home of a friend of ours who was a member, or at least his parents were a member of Beit Tikva. That's Michael Green. And sadly, both Michael's parents died in the past year. According to the secular calendar, his mother, Sarah Green, was buried exactly a year ago. What's rather unusual about Sarah Green, who was a regular member of Old Barkingside Progressive, a lovely lady, was where she was born. Because anybody tell me where she was born? I'm sure Tony knows.
Afghanistan.
That's right. She was born in Herat, where the largest community of Afghanistan was. But as I'm sure you know, after 1948, in the early 50s, pretty well the entire Jewish community of Afghanistan left as quickly as they could. Many of them settled in Israel, others settled in the United States. Sarah Green came via Israel, where they lived in great destitution for some years. She made a new home and married and had a lovely family here in East London. So there was a Jewish community in Afghanistan. I'd just like to say, I mean, you're all talking very animatedly about current events, but I thought it might help if I spoke a little about the history of Afghanistan as I know it, and particularly the Jewish history of that country.
What is the national anthem of the United States?
Can somebody turn that off? I'm getting a little interference. Thank you. Right. So, as you may or may not know, Afghanistan is in the center of Asia. It's to the west is Persia, to the east, India, now divided into India and Pakistan. To north are the Central Asian states that used to be part of the USSR. Now they're independent. There are 5 of them, all ending in stan. I can't remember them. Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, that sort of place. So it is literally at the crossroads of Asia. It's a very mountainous country. It's large. And it's landlocked. That is very significant. There is no seaport in Afghanistan. So the crucial thing to understand about its history is it is literally a crossroads. Because if we didn't go by sea to communicate between the east and the west, you had to go by land, a very slow and long and dangerous journey. And why did people travel on what was called the Silk Road from the east to the west and vice versa? Mainly for trade. Afghanistan was the division of the paths. If you went further north, across the Gobi Desert, you'd reach China and the wealth of China. If you turned to the south, you'd reach India and the wealth of India. So Afghanistan was there, controlling the trade between the Mediterranean in the west and the great Asian empires to the east. And it connected these great Mediterranean ports of Venice, Genoa, Constantinople, Tripoli, and Tyre. Ports on the Mediterranean, and you went by land many, many days to reach China. And what did China produce? Jade, silks, porcelain, fine china. For many decades or many centuries, China had the world monopoly, the secret of light white china, porcelain. Of course, it's called China because it came from China. And going to India, what did the merchants take? They took precious things. They took gold, they took jewels to sell in the West. And with trade comes wealth, and the merchants, many of them, not all of them, many of them were Jews, so there were Jewish communities living in all these ancient historic towns along the Silk Road. They were like beads on a necklace connecting the West to the East. Jewish communities on every stop on the way. Jews were merchants, that's how they earned their living. They also provided finance in order to finance this long distance, very, very risky trade in a world without insurance. In the 8th century, a great transformation. Afghanistani people were conquered by Islam. It became a Sunni Muslim country. And as again, you might know, under Sunni Islam, under the Shia law, Jews are allowed to live and to worship freely. They were not forced to convert to Islam, but they had to accept a secondary status, a sort of second-class citizens. In Arabic, it's called dhimmi. So on the one hand, they weren't allowed to own land, they were allowed to trade, weren't allowed to marry Muslims, and if they built their synagogues, they had to be small and inconsequential. They were not allowed to build huge, impressive buildings, which is of course still true of Jewish Mizrahi communities, where they've got beautiful synagogues from the inside, from the outside, you don't know that the synagogue is there. So young Jewish men were excused military service as dhimmi to compensate the state. Instead of serving the emir or the ruler, the sultan, whoever it was, they had to pay an extra tax. So they were taxed with this jizya tax. So for many centuries, yes, it was up and down. Sometimes they prospered, sometimes they were persecuted, and Jewish communities were in the largest towns of Afghanistan, Kabul, Kandahar, in particular, Herat. The end of the story is very sad. I believe now there is just one single Jewish man who continues to live. He looks after the cemetery in Kabul, just one man, as a testimony to all those centuries of unique Jewish culture.
I think the JC said he was being brought out.
Fiona's just said the JC, but she's read and not me, say that he's being evacuated. Hopefully he is. Then there'll be 0 Jews in Afghanistan. And again, it's very sad because they have their unique cultural history. I have this beautiful book from Michael Green, which shows the artifacts that the Afghani Jews produced over the centuries. These are a series of Afghani ketubot. With the end of a Jewish community, everything goes into museums in Israel. It's very, very sad. As the crossroads of Central Asia, always conflict between the great and powerful empires. You've got Persia in the west. Even further west are the Greeks. And in the 5th century BCE, the Greeks under Alexander the Great conquered the Persian Empire. They pushed through east to Afghanistan. That's why present-day Afghan people are very pale skinned. They say that's because they intermarried with the Greeks in those ancient days. And then in more contemporary times, as you know, in the 19th century, Russia in the north pushed south to India. The British pushed north. There were wars every decade in the 19th century. The 20th century, USSR invaded. The West pushed back. The Afghan people have managed to throw out the Greeks, the Persians, the British, the Soviet, and now the West. Every conquering empire has come and gone. Harold Macmillan was recorded saying to the next prime minister, whatever you do, mate, whatever you do, don't invade Afghanistan. So now we see a return to Sharia law under the Taliban. We're terrified on their behalf, especially for women. I don't need to expand on what Sharia laws mean. On top of war, uncertainty, chaos, a whole society falling apart and having to be put together again. All I can say in conclusion, I know all of us are very disturbed and frightened and shocked, deeply shocked by the rapidity of this change in just 1 week, is I thank God that the Jewish community did manage to leave 70 years ago. So I'm sure we all share this evening in a heartfelt prayer for the future welfare of the Afghan people, all 38 million of them. They're not uniform, many different tribes and groups, minorities within minorities. What is their future? What will it hold for them? All I can say is, may God help them. It seems that NATO and the Americans, we certainly haven't been able to help them very much. So with those thoughts, we'll now turn to the ELENS on page 520. 520.
Aleinu l'shabech v'adon hakol, la'otei gedula li'otzeh bereshit, asher sam helkenu li'achad et shemo, v'gor aleinu l'chamid malchuto, v'anachnu korim u'mishtahavim u'modim, lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוצא הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומי. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו את גדולתו, הכתוב בתורתו, ידעת היום והשבות אלף עברך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים, בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת.
And I asked Liz Gardner if she's still there. Could you unmute and read the second paragraph for us, please?
I am here actually, but I've just have an issue with my camera. It's on the blink.
Okay. Are you able to read? Or
I am indeed.
Thank you.
trusting in you, eternal God. We hope soon to behold the glory of your might, when false gods will vanish from our hearts and idolatry cease forever. Help us to perfect the world by bringing it under your unchallenged rule, when all will invoke your name, relinquish evil, and turn to you alone. May all who dwell on earth come to know that to you every knee must bend and every tongue swear loyalty. Before you, let them humble themselves, and to your glorious name, let them give honor. Let all submit to your sovereign rule. May that time come soon and last forever. For ultimate sovereignty is yours, and to all eternity you will reign in glory, as it is written, the Eternal One shall reign forever. And it has been said, the eternal God shall rule over all the earth, and on that day the eternal God shall be one and known to be one.
Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz, vayom hahu vayeh Adonai echad u'shamo echad. We move down to prayer number 4, please, before Kaddish. As we say this prayer, we particularly think of our friend Judy Berkowitz, who in the past week, on Monday and Thursday, have had ceremonies commemorating the first anniversary of the death of her son, Andrew. It is hard to feel serene when our world is not complete, when people who once brought wholeness to our life have gone. In particular, we remember the name of Harriet Simmons' mother, Julia Eisenthal, David Forbes' father, Morris, Betty Ruttman's mother, Rose Rayner, Jan Martin Ellis's father, Harry Green, Michael Lang's father, Iva, John Spiro's mother, Yetta, Jean Baker's husband, Ron Baker, and Harriet's uncle, Derek Barron, and finally Peter Ordiva's mother, Esther Ordiva. Are there any other yacht sites I should mention? In the emptiness these people's passing leaves behind, we know we are not alone, for we do have the companionship of the living, and even our loved ones who have died live on in our hearts, for what they were is part of what we have become. We honor them best when we live as they would wish, responsibly, happily, even in the shadow of our loss. And so we all draw closer to the source of life, in whom every life finds its meaning, purpose, and hope. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalma tivarach Yerutei, v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechonu v'yomechonu v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, v'agalo v'izman kari v'yemru Amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mavarach la'alam v'la'almei almaya, v'yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ah v'yitram v'yitnaseh, v'yitalei v'yitalal shemei dekudsha barichu. Leila min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbekata v'nechamata ta'amiran b'yoma v'yemru Amen. Yehei shalom Rabba min Shemayim, v'chaim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yemru Amen. Osei shalom b'momav, v'ya'asei shalom, aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yal kol b'nei Adam v'yemru Amen. Passing over to Stuart now.
Thank you, David. Shabbat Shalom all, and thanks, David, for leading the service, and to June and Nick for hosting, and all who took part. Thank you all. Tomorrow morning's service starts at 10:45 and is led by Fiona, who's already sitting in position. Thanks. Sunday afternoon from 2:30 for about an hour is knit and natter with Diane Lynn. I'm not sure the proportion of knitting to nattering or tea to cake, but anyway, I'm sure you have fun. Every weekday, Monday to Friday, 11 a.m. is 11s with either Gary or June as hosting, or both, or maybe a guest host. Judy and the Puzzlers are having a few weeks off for August, and we'll come back, I think, after the high holidays, I believe. This Thursday, the 26th at 12:30 is Lunch and Learn with Rabbi David. Forthcoming next Sunday, the 29th, not this Sunday, next Sunday, the 29th, our quizzes are back with Hilary and Francis Barclay running the first one back. Look out for an exciting new email to all members coming out on Wednesday, thanks to Nick. And also thanks to Nick for his forward this evening, which I hope everyone's read. And if anyone can volunteer as phone callers and or as Zoom hosts, particularly during the forthcoming high holy days, Nick will really appreciate it.
You're muted, Stuart.
Stuart, you're muted.
Sorry. Okay, wishing long life to Judy and her family, and to Harriet and Jan and all who moon, wishing them a long life. I know I've said this before, but I'm always so moved by the inquiries and the wishes and the cards and everything for Ruth. I know it's been quite a few weeks now, but it's just marvellous, and it shows what a wonderful community we are, and I really appreciate it. Shabbat shalom to you all. Take care, and see you soon. Thanks, everyone.
Shabbat shalom, Stuart, and I hope I'll see you and Ruth together again very soon. Nick, are you able to lead us in Yigdal? Page 526. No notice.
Thank you. I'm not very familiar with Yigdal, actually. I remember that Edward Glover at Westminster, that was his favourite. You would know Edward, of course, but he was always disappointed that I would never sing it. I always sang Adon Olam.
Okay.
So,
Well,
yeah, I apologise. I'm not the man for you on that one.
We'll get you another time, don't worry.
Simon? Okay, I will draw the short straw. I know Simon's here.
Oh yeah, you can always rely on him. Yigdal Elochem Chai v'yishtabach Nimsam v'yain edel metzihuta Achad v'yain yachid kayid Allah. I don't know it as well as I thought I did.
Melam ve'ayin sof le'achduto
Ein lo damotaguf ve'ein nahaguf la'adon halam kadushato kadmo lecha dava asher nivra rishon ve'ein reshit lahishita hagin adon olam Lahiltzotza, Yorei Gedulata Umachuto.
Should I continue?
Go for it.
Ino Adon Olam v'chol notza Yorei Gedulato Umachuto Shefanu ato Natano el anshe segulato v'tifato lo kam be'Yisrael kam Moshe Yonavi umahabi et emunato Olaktem en natan le'amo el al yad naviyo neman beito Lo yachal yipa'el, v'lo yamir dato le'olamim lezulato. Sofer v'yodea, satarenu mabit l'sof davar v'kadmato. Omer le'ish chesed kamifalo, noten levashava kavishato. Yishpok l'getz yamin al kol bacharucho, liftor machakekei Yeshuato. Hayei olam nata בתוכנו, ברוך אתה השם תהילתו, חיי עולם נטע בתוכנו, ברוך אתה השם תהילתו. May God bless us and keep us. May God look kindly upon us and be gracious to us. May God reach out to us all with tenderness and give us peace. Yivalechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. Ye'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichunecha. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. Shabbat shalom,
Shabbat
everybody.
shalom.
Page 564. Pour out the wine.
Yeah.
No, we had the Shamru. Vayivoke Yom HaShishi, Vayahuna Shemayim B'Varetz V'Kol Z'Am, Vayachal Elohim B'Yom HaShvi'i Melato Asher Asa, Vayishbot B'Yom HaShvi'i Mikol Melato Asher Asa, Vayavalek Elohim et Yom HaShvi'i V'Yikadesh Oto, Kivo Shabbat Mikol Melato Asher bara Elohim לעשות.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם
בורא פרי הגפן.
אמן.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נשנו במצוותיו וצוונו בשבת קודשו בימה ורצון הגילנו זיכרון למעשה בראשית, כי הוא יום תפילה למקראי קודש, זכר לצפיית מצרים, הבנו ואתה, יותנו קידשת מכל העמים, בשבת קודשך מאהבה וברצון הנהלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
Amen.
L'chaim, everybody.
So nice to see everybody joining in with that bit.
L'chaim.
L'chaim, l'chaim.
And thank you, June, for being our hosts.
And thank you, David, for a lovely service. I'm going to stop sharing. Everybody knows the blessing over the challah.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם המוציא לחם מן הארץ.